Hello everybody, Jose Rodriguez here. I'm back again to talk about the PRO-100, the new inkjet, what it took to get there, what are the best practices for transferring from OEM to this new inkjet. And again, we saw hardly any kind of change in rendition, even using the driver, which is really amazing because I have not come across a single third-party ink source for the PRO-100 or even the early PRO-9000 back in the day that did not require pretty extensive profiling in order to make it at least come somewhat close to OEM color rendition. Now, remember that when you get your printer, especially you beginners, and I was once a beginner too, so, I didn't have anyone to coach me back in the day because pretty much everything was the wild, wild west. We didn't know what the heck we were doing back in those days. Well, at least now there's some people that kind of know what to do. And, I'm trying to help you guys at least avoid some of the pitfalls that you might run into. So, when you get your printer and you set it up out of the box, you're going to be very excited. Of course, it's a wonderful printer. You're going to load up your originals. You're going to run a nozzle check, make sure everything is working great. That means it's going to look perfect, just like this one. And then you're going to proceed to print. This is not the PRO-100, by the way. This is the PRO-10. But what I want you guys to see is that the bands are 100% without any kind of gap or missing segments. And that's what you want to show. Then you're going to run a print head alignment. Now, if you have any kind of missing nozzles, your print head alignment will fail, okay? You cannot run a print head alignment unless your print head is firing on all cylinders. So once you do that, then you're ready to print, but you're ready to print only a standard image at this point. And you better have your monitor calibrated. So when you print your standard image, as I described in my last 3 videos that I did on that series, you want to then take that, what's going to be pretty much a perfect print. I guarantee you, the PRO-100 by itself can produce a perfect print of that standard image. Don't let it fool you. Open it, file, print, and just let the driver control color. Choose your paper, whether it's ProLuster or Glossy 2 or whatever, Canon paper, and that's important. You have to begin with Canon paper. Choose the matching paper choice on the drop-down menu. Quality high, of course. Then you're going to go to color/manual color adjustment, I believe it is called. And there you're going to go to the matching tab and choose ICM. That's important. Choose ICM. That will make the driver magically load the matching profile for that paper. You didn't know that a driver could do that? Well, the Canon drivers definitely can. So print it, look at it, and now go back to your monitor. If you're lucky enough to have a monitor calibrator hardware, then you have to make your monitor match the output you just created. That's what you have to do. That's what a lot of people don't quite get. And here is one example of what I'm talking about. You got to make this print, this output print, matched by your monitor. So you're going to put it next to your monitor and you're going to calibrate your monitor over and over and over again, however many times it takes. Get that white point, in other words, the white balance to match this. And then you're going to have to worry about the contrast, the brightness, and so forth. People complain mostly about getting darker than what they see on the monitor prints. Well, that's kind of normal because prints are viewed by reflective light, and monitors show you that image by transmitted light, which is always going to be brighter and just more brilliant. So that is something that you have to kind of get used to. But get that luminance down to a level that will match your outputted print and get that color temperature spot on. Okay, By that I mean the D whatever, D50, D55, D60, D65. The higher the number, the colder or bluer the image on your monitor will be displayed. See? So that has to match your outputted print. It's not as difficult as it sounds. You can do that. Normally, if you just calibrate your monitor at D65, which is the default for most software, especially X-Ray, you will get the proper, correct color calibration or color temperature or white point, many different ways to describe the white balance of a monitor. Mine is set right now so that it matches that output. So now I know that when I open up my images, I can then be trusting of that monitor. The way it is displaying my image colors, I know it's displaying them correctly. So if I want to make a slight change this way or that way, I'm not going to be lost at the end, because really, if the monitor is not displaying your image correctly, then whatever changes you make mean nothing, because you have no baseline to judge your editing. So whatever you edit may end up being wrong anyway. I always say that a dark print reflects a dark image. A light print reflects a light image. A print that is off color, unless you did something to the driver, reflects an image that is off color, because the printer, if it's working correctly, will always reproduce whatever you feed to it. So whatever you feed to it is what the printer is going to faithfully, trustingly reproduce for you. Okay, so that's very important. That's the biggest hurdle you will meet along your transition from, say, just a digital photographer who relied on the internet for their images to someone now producing actual prints on paper. Okay. PRO-100 inks. So far, they have been the best out there. Okay. Nothing comes close to the new PRO-100 inks. They have the highest level of longevity. They have the greatest color reproduction quality of anything I've come across. So anything being sold as a third-party ink had better be able to compete with that. Otherwise, there's no point on switching over to a third-party ink source. Now, what if you can't afford it? Well, what if you're just printing for fun? This is what you do. You're not going to sell to anybody, then by all means, go ahead and explore the possibilities of switching over to a lower cost printing system. And I recommend the newest Precision Colors PC42 SE Signature Edition inkset. I tested that on a previous video. The results were wonderful. I was kind of shocked myself. I really did not expect them to perform as well as they did. So, how do you transition? Well, you have to transition very, very carefully. And there's only one surefire way to do this. How do you turn an OEM cartridge into a refillable cartridge? Well, you begin by running it empty, possibly. I don't recommend you do that, but run it empty or buy them already empty from someone. Carefully remove that ball. That's the factory fill ball. And that basically now opens up a pathway to the liquid chamber. You're going to have to drill out that pathway to 5/32 of an inch so that a plug can seal perfectly against that hole. Okay, the plug will not enter if you don't drill out the bottom seat, what holds the ball in place. Don't worry about chips getting in. The drill has a reverse helix. It will pull the chips out. So if you have a drill press, even a hobby drill press, you will be able to drill these correctly. I don't really recommend doing it by hand. You could end up with an oval shaped hole, and that really will not be conducive to a good seal. When you don't have a good seal, you will have a leak into your print head, and it will make a mess internally. You don't want that. So you gotta be really careful. So that's why I don't even recommend that you modify your own cartridges. What I recommend is this, and I'm not trying to push this particular store on eBay or anything like that, but they're the only ones right now that have a reliable, completely full set of modified and flushed, which is the most important thing, set of cartridges. $60 will buy you a full set ready to be filled. They come with the clip-on type orange exit port clip. By clip-on, I mean that it goes through here and it clips onto this little tab right here. The original tab that you broke off, that has to be rubber banded in place, and it's not really a very secure way to seal that port while you are refilling. These will also come with a very good snug fitting plug. So you're all set. 60 bucks. You don't have to worry about messing up your original cartridges by over drilling them or any other problem that you may come across. Just start from the beginning with a freshly flushed set of cartridges. Why do I emphasize that? Because you want to start with nothing but 100% PC42 SE inks. Why do you want to have a mixture? It will take 2 to 3 refills to get rid of all of the remnant ink. Okay, and besides, run them till they are about halfway. Get used to your printer. Learn how to print. Learn the process. Okay? Master the process, in other words. Only work with pen and paper at this point until you can print blindfolded. Once you have that level of confidence, remove that set of cartridges, rubber band those clips back on, and you should have your second set already filled with the Precision Colors ink set. Pop those in. The whole kit and caboodle. Just pop them in, run a purge cycle, which we'll do automatically anyway, and then run a cleaning cycle after that, followed by a nozzle check, followed by a head alignment, and now you're ready to print. Will you see a difference? Probably not. You will probably see an improvement between the two inksets. Yes, it is that good. If you don't believe me, go watch my videos, okay? I spoke with Mike just yesterday, and I told him, and he was like, he kind of chuckled a little bit because he realized that how hard he worked on that particular ink set. Now, I'm not going to get into what settings you have to use because they're the same settings you would use if you just printed with the driver using OEM inks. That was the whole point of this new ink set, to allow a rank beginner to not worry or not suffer any transition problems between one ink to the next. When you start off with a fully flushed card set that you refill with a new ink, you would see the results immediately, okay? If you do the transition with half full OEM cartridges and you got a slow mix, you're not really printing with the new inks, that you're printing partially with OEM and some of the new inks. You will not see that transition until it's too late, until you have refilled those cartridges several times. And by that point you say, oh, I don't like the way this looks. I should have never, purchased this ink set. That will not happen with the Precision Color Signature Edition ink set. That will not happen. Simply. Have a look at that. Isn't that amazing? This is with Precision Color Signature Edition. Let me show you the one with OEM. If I can pull it up real quick here. I should have been prepared beforehand. This is OEM right here. This is PC. OEM, PC. OEM on the right, or my right, PC right here. How about that? Amazing, amazing results. And that's just simply letting the driver control color. Now, what took to get to this point? What did it take? Over 8 months of blending dye inks from different US sources, and there's only a couple of them, until he was able to see perfectly matched, nearly perfectly matched results to OEM. Now, when you do this sort of work, you have to keep meticulous notes on the proportions that you used. You have to have multiple sets of cartridges because you're loading different blends of a particular color in your printer. So it takes an immense amount of work to arrive at that. And then you have to have a lab that's willing to work with you, basically in a custom manner, in order to accommodate your needs, because a lab just produces a generic ink set for a printer. They're not going to blend it, okay? They're not going to custom blend it. Well, when you have connections, I guess it comes a little bit easier. So One thing that must be known is that all of the colors were adjusted, okay? The gray inks, in order to bring this, who says that the gray inks were so important? The gray and the black. Two grays, one black. The yellow one is also very good, by the way. Now, the gray inks, these particular gray inks were extremely expensive, okay? To the point where PC almost gave up, okay? Almost gave up on the project. But in the end, I think what happened was that they assimilated the extra cost. They increased the cost of each individual color a bit to sort of bring down the discrepancy in price. It would have been almost unaffordable, and to the point of like OEM prices. So that would not have been a good thing, right? Anyway, at the end of the day, they reached an agreement and proceeded with production of the final inks in volume. And so that's where we are at right now. That's what I received. That's what I tested. And it's just ridiculously amazing. That Pro 100 is going to get a lot more work, let me tell you. Now, I didn't mean this to be kind of a multi-subject video, but I just got an email from a gentleman who has a Pro 1, and he's got the error. Basically, when you look it up, it means your waste ink pads are full. Now, unlike the Pro 100 that you can just buy another one for like 50, 60, 70, $100 net price. So you can have spare bodies laying around waiting for that dreaded moment to take place, to come by. There are no more waste ink pads for the Pro 1. No one can find them. No one can find them. In fact, you can't even find a printer on eBay any longer, a Pro 1. Hardly. I was shocked. So the problem is he did take it to a service center, and they cannot get the waste ink pads to service the printer. Isn't that amazing? That will not happen with the Pro 100. Pro 100 is still being produced. The Pro 1 is no longer being produced, and I think is done. It's a done deal. Mine is sitting up there, and I need to use it more often now because I got a big supply of my own personal sets of cartridges. I have ink, I have chips. I need to use it before that happens. The less I use it, the more cleaning cycles I generate, and that does not produce prints. That just generates waste ink. Makes no sense at all. This is what I preach about, and I am guilty of it right this minute because I'm so enamored now with my Pro 100 and the new inkset that I have been neglecting my Pro 1. I need to also use this baby right here a lot more as well. This is not a problem because it has user replaceable waste ink cartridges, but the Pro 1 does not. The same thing with the Pro 10. The Pro 10 I use a lot, so that's not a big deal. But the Pro 100, again, if you love it and you now have pretty much the best possible combination, great inks, okay, at a very low cost comparatively speaking, the ability to produce gorgeous prints like this, and do it at about a tenth of the price. Maybe. I may be exaggerating, but we're thinking that in order to refill this cartridge, because you're going to refill it either just before it hits low or right at the low warning. That means the sponge still contains about maybe 5 milliliters of ink total. You're going to just top it off so that you get the 13 milliliters of ink. That means maybe 7 ml, 7, 8 ml of ink is what you're going to use. About $1 a refill is what you're going to be paying from now on. How about that? So that is one way to just print and print and print without any kind of ink cost worries, which is what worries most people. One thing that I will leave you with is that if you were at the point where you can barely print because you couldn't afford it, don't continue to do that when you switch over to this. Change your attitude. Print often. Print as often as you're supposed to print, even if it was going to cost you a lot of money with the original OEM inks. Now that you can afford it, and really it is affordable, print a lot more often. I am printing like there's no tomorrow on the Pro 100 right now. I've already refilled it twice. So there you go. Thank you again for all of the support. I hope this wasn't too much rambling. I just want to get some information to you guys about this. Remember, when you get your set from eBay, and I have a link to the store on my description, so make sure you scroll down and look at my links. It's right there to the eBay store that sells these. Get them. This is the best way, honestly. This is the best way to start to use third-party inks. Okay, there is no better way to do this. And you will not have to buy a second set yourself at $120, full OEM, in order to have just the luxury of a second set of cartridges. Just buy them already prepped and ready to go for you. All right, that is it. If I come up with something else, I will be back and do a secondary video. But so far, I think this is enough for you guys to absorb. Again, if you have any questions, you know where to put them. I will try to answer every single question that I get, every kind of comment that I get. So don't forget to subscribe, always, share, always, and like. All right, thank you so much. Happy printing, everybody. Bye-bye.